You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in Larry Nussbaum, president and attorney at Nussbaum Shunara, trial attorneys, personal injury, and criminal defense in Boston, Mass. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Go Celtics. I wish we could still say it. I'm a big Celtics fan here. So
I was just watching all the crazy free agency. Today's the first day of free agency.
Really?
So the Celtics haven't done much, but there's some big things happening. The NBA won't look the same next year as it did last year.
Okay, well, who knows? I mean, I hope we don't
trade. These guys are getting $50 million a year.
It's crazy. I mean, if we can get Bradley Beal over somehow without getting smart.
Just signed 5 years, $250 million with the Warriors. With the Wizards. It's $50 million
dude,
a year.
You said Warriors. I almost fell out of my chair.
With the Wizards,
okay.
He re-signed $50 million a year. Jordan never got more than 30.
Okay, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, all right. Well, anyway, so we move on. We go to the Patriots. Go Pats. And we do say, like, tell us how many times you've gotten stopped on the street. People saying, "Hey, Julian Edelman, can I get your autograph or a photo?"
All the time, and I've actually signed autographs.
That's awesome.
I play along. Who am I to break a little kid's heart?
Nah, poor kids. But that's pretty awesome. All right. So thanks for being here. We've featured you in October 6th, 2021. So are you a native person from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, born and raised, Boston?
Yeah. So I was born here, and then spent some time in Connecticut, and
nice.
Been back here for a very long time. I won't out-age myself here, but
okay.
I'm in Boston currently, and have no plans on going anywhere else.
Nice. Where in Connecticut were you?
Glastonbury, which is a small little town, and then I went to boarding school at Avon Old Farms.
Okay. Yeah, I lived in downtown
in Avon.
Yeah, I lived in downtown New Haven for a while, actually.
All right, that's not too bad.
It's not far at all. It was a good experience. So tell us, when was the moment that you knew you wanted to be a lawyer?
When I graduated college and had no idea what I wanted to do.
Okay, fair enough. I
looked around and I said, I want to either be an actor. Or that wasn't really realistic, or at least my mom told me that. So I said, maybe being a lawyer would be pretty cool. And I've never looked back. Okay.
So you went to Suffolk, right, in Boston, a really good school there. So
yes, sir.
So what was your law school experience like when you went there? I mean, totally different than undergrad, right?
So different. So it's one of those things I've never been someone who is, the most diehard student, so to speak. And so going into law school, I just thought it would be a harder version of college, and it was completely different. I actually excelled for the first time in my educational career in law school.
It's amazing.
I guess the way I describe it to people is, and I didn't know this until I got older in life, but the whole thing, like homework and testing and all those kind of things, is to kind of keep us on track and to hold us accountable. And so that's why you have it. And those are things I hated. I hated homework. In law school, they don't give a shit. If you want to fail out, you can fail out. They're not there to hold your hand, right? That's not what they're there for.
Right.
They want to see people drop out. So there was no point. They didn't give you pointless assignments to do. They taught you, and you either understood it or you didn't, or you took advantage of it or you didn't. And so being able to do it my own way rather than having to follow such a systematic way, I actually excelled. So I found it to be completely different, and I enjoyed it. much more than any other kind of class I'd been in, and I actually did better, even though in theory it's
Yeah.
supposed to be harder.
Right, and there's like one exam at the end. Sometimes we get a midterm, so it's
Correct. That's it. I mean, like I said, for me, it was an awesome experience, and it was easy.
yeah,
I hate
yeah.
to say it, it really was,
Woo,
and that's for
easy.
someone who
Woo.
wasn't a great student. But
Okay.
it just fit the way I learned, and the way I prepared and studied. It kind of fit me better than other types of schooling. Like, again, like I said, I wasn't a homework or testing kind of guy.
Okay, so do you have any advice for law students out there who are, just coming into to school, or maybe even a third-year law student? What would your advice be?
I mean, to do it your way, right? So there's, we had a few interns, and they're all getting, or now they're studying for the bar, but they were all getting nervous, and I've watched them. So I had 4 interns, and we've actually hired all 4 to be lawyers, pending obviously they pass the bar. And so I've seen they're all approaching studying for the bar differently. It's actually kind of, when I get to look back now and kind of live vicariously through them, they're all taking a different approach. And I can tell you, I took my own approach, which wasn't for everybody.
Okay.
And so I think you really are able to kind of do it your way. There is no right or wrong way. It's not supposed to be easy, and it's the first time where, and I think it's done me well in my career, right? There's a lot of good lawyers, there's a lot of bad lawyers, but you can do it your own way.
Yeah, so would you advise a law student to like be in moot court or join the law review or do any of those activities?
So I hate writing, so I never got involved in anything like that. But I will tell you, I did do all the trial, what would be called the trial practice classes.
Right.
And so, yes, I always advise that to people. I think the industry has changed a lot.
Okay.
I'm in the personal injury field, so I'll speak about that specifically. Excuse me. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, almost out of battery. I hope I can make it to full 30 minutes. So
Okay.
when I came out of law school in 2011, and I started in a law firm in 2008, and then I kind of knew about what was happening a few years before that. So early 2000s, mid 2000s, there would be a lot of what I call glorified claims adjusters, not to rag on anybody. And what I mean by that is you could really get away with knowing how to handle a file and settling a file, right? People would settle claims. Now, I truthfully feel, in the way we hire our own lawyers now, you've got to be able to try a case. If you can't try a case, you're of no use.
Wow.
I'll say the same, in my opinion, in this field. Anybody can settle a case. The insurance companies know that, and they don't pay you. You've got to be able to show them that you really can try a case. Same thing for what I would call, nowadays, it used to be you were either a trial lawyer or like glorified claims adjuster or a rainmaker. And the most important thing would be a rainmaker who can bring in the business. Right. Nowadays, you can buy as many cases as you want off of Google. You really can. Wow. You could be a first-year law student whose father's worth $1 billion. You can compete. You can buy the cases. So the value of a rainmaker has gone down over the last 10, 15 years as the business has changed. But certainly, I advise all young lawyers or law students, if you, at least in my field, and I would imagine it's changed that way in a lot of different fields, if you can't try a case, you're not nearly as valuable as someone who can.
So if a young lawyer like the ones you were talking about study for the bar, do you mentor them at all to learn how to try a case, or do you hope that those kids get the skills in law school that they need?
No, absolutely. So we try to bring people in. So we try to hold an event for our firm monthly. We don't do as well as I'd like to, but I'll bring in, like last month, we brought in a national trial lawyer who talked, all different strategies of how to build a case. So I believe in further education, and I believe there's some real skills. I travel the country going to all these different conferences, and it blows my mind. You can go to Harvard Law School and be the best lawyer, right, and the smartest lawyer, whatever that means. And unless you've been around some of these legends and learned the tools of there's real life aspects. There are some lawyers down south, the different states have different laws, and New England's not as good for trials as down south.
Right. And the West, man, I feel like,
right?
Bro, those people on Instagram,
yeah,
they're in the West, in California, like trying.
So there are some lawyers, and I've met a bunch of them, and there's some of what are known as the best attorneys in the country. I guess that means they get the biggest verdicts. And they truthfully believe that they win the case in picking the jury. Nothing else matters. The facts of the case don't matter. Nothing else matters. They are able to get the right jury for their case. And that's a hell of a skill. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars picking the right jury on a case. Wow. Now, again, without going into the details, different states have different laws, and Massachusetts specifically doesn't have the type of laws where you're able to go into as much depth as you would in some other states. But people believe in being able to win that. And that's something you wouldn't learn in law school. You just wouldn't. There's no class how to pick a jury.
Yeah.
I don't think, or at least Suffolk didn't have one. But I mean, I was involved in the trial classes. Nobody gets that in depth of how to pick a jury. Right? That's more psychology than it is law.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But some of these lawyers will tell you the reasons they get these $30 million verdicts is that they won that the minute the jury was picked, that case was over.
Right, because they know.
I believe that people should learn how to try a case. Even if you don't use it, you should know how to, right? You should learn how to try it. And I try to further educate my whole office on a monthly basis.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So did you have a mentor who taught you how to try a case, or do you have a mentor right now?
Wow, is that a tricky question or a loaded question? So I study this kind of stuff. So there's not a person I've listened to a podcast that doesn't recommend that you should have a mentor, whether you're in the legal field or not, right? A coach. I have friends that pay 7 figures a year for a coach. And I'm like, what are you paying a coach for? It's crazy, but it's a huge industry. And so I have had a lot of people who have influenced me over my life and my career. And I think based on all those experiences, some good, some not so good, right? You got to fail a little bit, and you got to have some bumps in the road to actually learn and get better. I don't know if I can actually say that I've had like one mentor who's taken me from A to Z, but I've had a lot of people at a lot of different points in my life that have helped me grow and mature and achieve the goals that I've been looking for. And I think that's important to have
for sure.
Someone to look up to, or again, it can be multiple people. I think sometimes when we talk a mentor, and again, like I said, I read about this, we put them on a pedestal and they have to be a god, and they have to be the greatest person ever, and they're never wrong, and they never make mistakes. So I'm not sure I've had someone quite like that, but there's been a lot of people that have been influential on me. And again, to this day, Alexander Shinara would, one of my partners would be one of them. He's older. He's more experienced. He's done it.
Plus he's got some sweet sneakers too, right?
I think mine are better. I
haven't seen yours, so I don't know.
I think mine are better. I'm barefoot right now, so I won't show you.
All right, don't do that.
Mine are better, but I will say this. I think it's more what you really mean to say is that you were more surprised to see him wearing that type of sneaker.
Oh man, I like the style. Like he should. He showed some kicks. I was like, wow, those are
the blazer. I mean, he's got the blazer in the high top Jordans.
So that's awesome. So you guys have a connection. He's out. Where is he, in like Alabama or something? Or
I mean, his firm's pretty national, but his headquarters is Alabama. He lives in Alabama.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Larry, give us some advice for a young lawyer.
Outwork everybody.
Okay.
It's a people's game, right? I always say, I have a couple famous sayings that always come up, but something I always preach is you, and I don't recommend doing this, but you can mess up a file, right? You can mess up a case a little bit. You cannot be perfect on a case. And if your client actually genuinely likes you and trusts you, and you formed a relationship with that client, everything's going to be okay. You can fix that mistake, and it's all going to work out. Okay. You could handle a case perfectly, and make no mistakes and get a client a lot of money. And if they don't like you and you didn't make a connection with them and you didn't return your calls, doesn't matter all the money in the world. They hate you. They're not referring cases to you. They're never coming back to you. It's a people's game. That's it.
So why personal injury and criminal law for you?
So the personal injury is something, to be honest, I just kind of fell into, right? My first job my first internship was at a personal injury firm, and I loved it from day one. I can't tell you why, but I did. I think one of the reasons is, like I was just saying, is that, I'm not in the back of the room pushing paper. I'm dealing with real life people
for sure.
On a daily basis. People would be blown away at the stories we hear. You get your run of the mill cases, obviously, and some of it's repetitive, but the different stories, people wouldn't believe me when I tell them the stories or the issues people are experiencing. And so I get to deal with people all day. I get to help people all day. So it's something I just kind of fell in love with immediately. The criminal aspect is, believe it or not, I actually wanted to be a criminal attorney, I think, initially. And then I learned, as much as I just preach that everybody should learn how to be a trial attorney, is that as I was growing my firm, I would have a case in a courtroom 45 minutes away. So you got to drive 45 minutes to the courtroom. Then you got to wait 4 hours to have your client's name called. And then I get 20 seconds in front of the judge just to pick a new date, right? We see on TV, we see these fancy trials. 90% of your court appearance are not glorious like that.
Right.
And I call it losing money. I was losing money every day. I was spending 8 hours to actually accomplish 10 seconds of work. So, I went a different approach, and I built a firm, and now I have great lawyers who are actually the ones taking the time and handling the files. But when we got to a point where we had enough clientele and we had a huge network of clients who, came to us for everything. So if somebody had an immigration issue, if somebody had a family law issue, if they had any issue, and I truthfully believe a lot of this comes from TV. It's funny, and I've seen this happen over the years, is that a client will hire me for a car accident, and for the next 10 years, like, if anything happens in their life, they call me.
Really?
I had a young lady. This is probably a few years ago. I forget if it was a Saturday or Sunday morning. I think it was a Sunday morning. My phone just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And I'm like, eventually I answered. I'm like, this has got to be an emergency. And literally, I mean, it's a sad story, but her grandmother was dead in the bed next to her, or not next to her, that morning.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm asking some questions, right? That's how we're trained as lawyers. I'm asking questions. And literally, the first thing she did when she found her grandmother, and, it's still sad, but it was old age, there was nothing crazy about it, is she called me.
So, like, what do you ask?
I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, you called me? I'm like, where's your grandmother now? She's like, in bed. I'm like, have you called 911? Have you done anything? And the first call was me. And so I learned real quickly, like, again, it's all about the people. If you form that relationship and you have that bond and you have that trust, clients call us over everything, any little thing. And so when we had enough volume, I would get so many calls on the criminal aspect that it just made sense to have our own little criminal department.
That's awesome. Oh, that's wicked cool. Like, so how did you connect with Alex Shinara?
So that was through a mastermind group. So mastermind, I don't know if other industries have them. I believe they do, but basically I was invited to join a group, and it was 25 law firms from all over the country. And this was a few years back, when now you could find 75 different masterminds, but there weren't as many back then. And one of my favorite parts of this story is that I happened to have a connection with the guy who started the mastermind group. It was actually Michael Mogul from Crisp.
Yeah, Michael Mogul. We had him on the show, man. Good guy.
Yeah, and so this was actually before he's done all this wonderful stuff he's done.
Yep.
This was like his first big group. So there weren't 10 groups. There was one group, and I was able to weasel my way in. But the funny thing is like, again, I was the 25th firm, so to speak. And the other 24 firms were like really established and huge firms all over the country. And then there was me. I'm not crying poor. I was doing all right, but I wasn't at their level.
Right.
And that's something I also pride myself in is, I always like to surround myself with great people. So I have no problem being the small fish in the room of all these
Good.
people. And
Yeah.
it served me very well. I've made unbelievable connections. I've had great success with all the people in that group, one of whom was Alexander Shinara. We hit it off well. A few years in, we happened to be talking, and I was telling him about some opportunities that had come about, and we kind of were able to work out a deal. And
Yeah.
That's
Then
COVID
awesome.
happened. It got a little
Yeah.
delayed, and now things are off and running, and we're busier than ever, and
By the way,
things are looking up.
yeah, you guys are doing tremendous. I see it on social media. I see the picture of you and Alexander, and guys in Boston. He came to visit. That's awesome. Congratulations to you guys. Are you?
Appreciate
By the
it.
way, are you going out to Atlanta in November for the CRISP summit there? Or no?
Yes.
You are. Okay. Look.
Yeah. So I've been to all of their.
So we'll talk
since
about
then.
that. We'll talk about that offline. How's that?
Yeah.
That's cool. No, because I like CRISP.
I'm still a little disappointed in the Rolls Royce that I got screwed out of last year.
Wow. Oh, really? So you didn't get that? I think actually.
Dan Gurl got it. It was a dear friend of
yeah.
mine. He's a great guy. If I wasn't going to win it, I think he should have. But I don't know. I don't think I'm being a poor sport. But I am a little sour over it.
Okay, well, we'll have to bring that up. We'll have to, loop in Michael and see what the deal is with that. But you should, when you have a few minutes, check out some of the clip with me and Michael Mogul.
I'll have to check that out.
I ask him, what a game-changing attorney is. It's in our reels, Instagram reels, and then I compare him to. Sorry, Michael, that I have to say this again. That I asked him if anybody had ever told him that he has Leonardo DiCaprio vibes from Wolf of Wall Street, like when he presents to people, because he's very, in a good way, like he's very charismatic and he really kind of commands the room. And I think he does a really good job. So I don't know. It was kind of like joking around a little bit, but I thought it was funny. Maybe nobody else did. All right. Anyway,
did he get the joke?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was cool with it. I had a really good time talking to him, actually.
No, he's a great guy.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
again,
totally.
like I said, I was in again, the things he has done in such a short period of time blows my mind.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, we might have to have a Lawyer Stories like a little presence down there at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but I'm
all for it. He might have you thrown out by security, but
if I call him, yeah, well, it happens, right? Wouldn't be the first time. So, what's the number one question a client should ask before hiring a personal injury attorney?
Oh wow. Number one question.
Like if people are saying, okay, should I hire Larry? Should I hire this one? Should I hire that? Like, how do they get to know you? You know what I mean? Like, what's the probing?
Oh, so all right. So I mean, I'll say this. So I think that's something we battle every day and strategize. Is so there's so much competition out there. A lot of lawyers will badmouth other lawyers, unfortunately. Oh, I'm the best. That guy's no good, blah, blah, blah. That's never been my approach. In fact, I won't ever comment on anybody, even if I don't like them or even if I don't think they're good. But what I say, we'll go to another one of my famous little things, is there's a lot of lawyers out there. We all know that. And there are some really good ones and there are some really bad ones. So I always assume let's eliminate the bad ones. So now you got a bunch of really good lawyers. How do you choose between them? They're all good. They're all going to get you the same result, right? You lose your leg, it's worth $5 million. You get to that really good law firm, they're all getting you $5 million. So that's where, again, it just comes down to who do you trust? Who do you want to experience this with? Who do you want to have dinner with? Who do you want to go to the dance with? Who do you want to experience this with?
Right. That's interesting.
Okay. And so if you eliminate the garbage and we're all giving you the same results, then there's only one thing that really matters is the experience, right? So I know some really good lawyers and they will tell you to your face, if you had them on Lawyer Stories, like, listen, I now have the client's case. My record speaks for itself. I don't want to answer their calls. I don't want to deal with all that bullshit. I don't want to have to deal with any headaches. Just leave me alone. I'll call you in 3 years and I'll have a lot of money for you. Right? There are lawyers that are like that. Like and there's no doubt the quality of their work is going to be good, maybe better than anybody else's, but they're not going to have the patience. They're not answering their phones on the weekends. They're going to be very tough on their clients. Stop calling me. Like, again, nowadays with technology, we're available 24/7. It's never been like that before. You can be reached so many different ways. Clients expect immediate attention. Hey, how can my lawyer not get back to me? There's no way he doesn't or she doesn't have his cell phone with them, right? There's just no way. So they expect you to get back to them. So it's all about the experience. There really are so many good lawyers. I don't think I'm better than the next guy, but I think I'm definitely as good. And so then what's going to separate myself and what do I try to make separate my firm is the client experience we give.
Can you tell a case that's likely to settle or go to trial? Like, how do you tell that right away?
There's some things. So, a lot of people like to look at what's the injury so you sign a new case, and I would argue it's changed a little bit recently, but I would say 80% of the personal injury firms that sign a case are taught or are so trained to think, what's the injury? How much is the injury worth? But the reality is that what nobody wants to think about is even if the injury is worth $10 million, if there's only a $20,000 policy, the case is only worth $20,000.
Right.
But the opposite of that is if there's $1 million policy and the case is only worth $20,000, well, my answer is, well, who says it's only worth $20,000? If you're a really good lawyer, I'm not saying you can get the million every time, but can I make a $20,000 case a $300,000 case? And the answer is hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Right. So I like to look at, what are the actual facts of the case, not just the injury. Was it a commercial vehicle? Right. Then you get into these commercial vehicles. Well, does the trucking company follow protocol? Did they give the driver enough rest? Now you do some depositions and you find out they've done this. This is the MO of this company. They overwork their drivers. Excuse me. It leads to multiple deaths a year. Now we're on to something, right? And so you can really, I like to think of every case. I wish as we grow, it's harder and harder, but I like to think of every case is really its own asset. Each case you acquire, my job is to try to build this and figure out the roadmap. Again, I spoke about it earlier. We had a national trial lawyer came in. His name is Brett Turnbull, out of Alabama and Atlanta. And the way he describes it is, so he only handles a few cases a year, all catastrophic, is that he tries to teach you. So if you were in a trial class and he teaches it, he says, imagine that you're like doing archery and there's a bullseye.
Yeah.
Right. Put it in the dead center and tie a string to it and start walking backwards. How do you get to that bullseye? How do you get to that $1 million? Don't start with what's the injury. Start with, okay, the bullseye is the $1 million, and let's work this backward. Let's create a masterpiece, and let's actually get the $1 million.
Really? And you've done that, and you think that's a great strategy?
I think it's an amazing strategy. Now, what I will say about that is that you get carried away, right? The injury is the injury. I'm not saying, nothing's made up. We can't take a $10,000 case and make it $1 million case. But I will say, I think a lot of lawyers leave a lot of money on the table.
Interesting. Okay. What's like the biggest reason for that? Just not exploring every option?
Because they're whoever's training them or who, people get routines. Oh, well, this case is worth $5,000. Well, why is this case worth $5,000? Well, because for the last 5 years, that's kind of what we've been settling them with Geico for.
Right.
Okay. So the next lawyer that comes into that law firm, guess what they settle their Geico cases for? About $5,000.
Okay.
But for no real reason.
Right.
Just
okay.
because
so it's just
said
so it becomes like routine until something
it becomes a pattern. And let me tell you something. If you don't think the insurance company's tracking all that, you better believe it. hey,
Of course.
so and so firm, they're always going to push us past $4,000, but once we get them to 5, they're never going to file. They're
Really
never
true.
going to push us. They're always going to settle.
So, that's something actually I wondered. So, like insurance companies, they see something come in from insurance companies see something come in from a certain law firm and they kind of know whether or not
Yep.
they can. Okay.
Absolutely. So now again, I'll say the same thing. I wish we were better at it. We track everything. What's the average settlement for this insurance company? What's the average settlement for each adjuster at each insurance company?
Yeah.
Does the settlement number change just by filing suit, right? Everybody thinks when you file suit, that means you have to go to trial. What if I could tell you that on any case, even the worst case ever, if you just file suit, they take that file, it moves to a different department, the litigation department, and they automatically will throw an extra $1,000 on no matter what.
Okay.
Right? I'm just making that up. But what?
No, that's
but that's what it is, right? We study it, and we're a lot poorer than the insurance companies. So you better believe that they've got every firm broken down to a T.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think it's actually really interesting. Like, I think you have a lot of wisdom with this, man. Like, I think and it's interesting because you say you didn't like writing, like in law school, but honestly, I think you should write. Like, you have a lot of stuff. What's that?
I like talking better.
Well, you could write. You could dictate.
No, I know. I've thought of writing a book.
So I think
Mike, we'll keep giving Michael Mogul his kudos. So Michael Mogul wrote his book, The Game Changing Attorney.
Yep.
I believe he used a company called Scribe.
Yep.
And
okay,
so
I'm familiar with them. Yep.
Are you familiar with them? And so again, you might know a little more about them than I do. And I actually know a few people, lawyers, that have actually done the same thing, and they use Scribe. And basically,
they came to me with it. They come to me on occasion with some of their lawyers who write books.
Do they? Okay.
We want them to come on our podcast.
Yeah. And so my understanding is it's meant for someone like me that's got a lot of knowledge and a lot to say, but doesn't want to write or doesn't know how to write. And basically, I would just talk and they would turn it into a book.
You need somebody to like sit there and be like, okay, go ahead, Larry. And then they type and you just talk. Yeah.
But they don't pay me. I pay them.
Because honestly, like a lot of the stuff you've said today is like super interesting. Like the whole jury thing you were talking about, like the bullseye, everything that you've learned. Like, I feel like you could definitely go on and write some articles, write, a book, like that sort of thing. So maybe down the road, it doesn't have to be like, next month. I mean, we are approaching football season in a couple months. So you don't want to get too busy before that. All right.
Agreed.
So
I'm going to be honest, my phone might die on us any minute.
So we could end. Is there any other advice or anything you want to say to the Lawyer Stories community?
Well, if you're in Massachusetts and you need a lawyer, call me.
Yeah, I love it. So
is that a plug? Is that a plug?
Before your phone dies, on LinkedIn you posted a video about patience, and I saw it, and you said like you're always on the go 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 go. Like, can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I'm getting better at this myself, but it's an everyday battle. I consider myself always in a rush. So I'm the guy. I wake up. I try to be out of the house in 5 minutes. Brush my teeth. Take a shower. There's no being present. There's no being in the moment. I get to the office. I'm trying to get some things done before anybody else gets there. Then the phone starts ringing, and then I get pulled in 10 different directions.
Yep. And
so it's real easy in this industry and business to let your day control you rather than control your day.
Right.
I definitely don't practice what I preach. Like, this is something I still to this day struggle with is I'm just go, 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 go. And I'm all over the place. And, sometimes you just got to take a minute, calm yourself down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can't change it. That's a Hal Axelrod shout out. See, I got it all up there.
One more question, and then I'll wrap it up. Social media, like, what kind of a role does that play for you?
Huge. And I go off again, something I haven't perfected. I tell people all the time, it seems easy. It's really frustrating. I've gotten better at it, and one of the things that allowed me to get better at it is I used to search for perfection, and now I think that the rawness is actually what's valuable.
Yeah,
right.
right on.
So if somebody posts a video and it's too perfect, it just means they did 50 shots. And part of, I'm saying all these quotes or I'm giving all this advice. I think even without giving anything like that, just showing your vulnerability is probably about as much value as you could possibly give anybody.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. That's great. So, Larry, it's super cool to connect with you. I'm like 45 minutes down the street. Hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on for your time today.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody else, wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.